orders.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Welcome to Sekulow. Look, we made it to another Friday. Here we are. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110. 1-800-684-3110. I want to hear from you. Of course, we are talking about some of the news here. This one's been very interesting. It's been bubbling up over the last few days. It feels like lawmakers, many former military themselves, are instructing members of the military, these are Democrat, by the way, lawmakers, saying, refuse the orders, refuse what they're considering to be illegal orders, that they have the right to do this. And, of course, there's a whole debate, specifically in the departments they work in, on what an even illegal order looks like. Of course, President Trump maybe responded with a bit harsh, saying what technically the punishment could be. But here we are once again with another controversial moment, as, again, there was a 90-second video that was posted earlier this week on Senator Slotkin's X account, and in it, 6 lawmakers, that's right, there was Mark Kelly from Arizona. There was Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzia, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Holahan, who said directly to service members whom Slotkin acknowledged are under enormous stress and pressure right now to defy these orders. Will.
That's right. This is an ad that they put out on X as well as Boston
like
Social Buys.
Piece.
Right.
What orders are they specific? They didn't specify, right?
That is part of the problem here.
Like, is it
they,
the orders on the fentanyl trafficking boats? Because, I mean, fentanyl's killing millions of Americans. They really want to just have more fentanyl in America? Or is it something to do with
the National Guard?
Yeah,
I think that's probably a lot of it. Things are happening within our own country. Is that what we're seeing? Let's let Will.
This is part of the problem, is that these senators and members of Congress have put out so vaguely and generically that something that is enshrined in our Constitution, that the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but now they are spreading a seed of doubt in every member of the military that you should be aware and be ready to defy the orders of your commander-in-chief. And we'll get into some of the background and play that as we come up.
Should we play it?
Yeah, I think we should.
Can I do this with a little bit of an asterisk before we play it?
Yeah.
I do not suggest doing this if you are a member of the armed forces. Please remember, when the commander-in-chief makes an order, that then goes through a process of down to your level. So it's not like you're just you hear the president speak and you immediately take action. No. That's not how the military works. It goes through order. So you'd be defying not just the president, but all of your commanding officers.
We'll play it when we
You'd
get
be in serious
back.
trouble.
We'll play it when we get back because we're just running a little low on time. But you'll see. Oh, for sure. We're not.
People in serious trouble.
And we are running essentially an ad, but you need to see it to believe it. We're going to play it when we get back. What do you think about this? Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110. You call in about this or any of the topics that we discussed. Of course, one of the big ones, meeting right now with President Trump in Washington, D.C., is new mayor-elect Mondami from New York City. Of course, another big moment. Look, I was in New York over the weekend, and I heard a lot of conversation about this. People who voted for him, not thrilled. He is meeting with President Trump after, of course, he said he was going to Trump-proof the city and all of those things, and now he's sitting down and having a meeting with him. I think it's good for America that it's happening. Yes, absolutely normal, but in a sort of post-Biden world, in a squad world, not normal. So I think this could be an interesting moment. Of course, that's also at the same time where New York City, where he decided, hey, the head of the NYPD, doing a pretty good job, going to leave her in place. Again, creating some controversy among their voters, and of course, maybe bringing a little bit of calm to those who did not vote for him. At the same time, not backing down on his anti-Semitic rhetoric, had some interesting comments about a protest going on in a synagogue, and of course, still threatening to arrest, whether he can or not, Benjamin Netanyahu if he steps foot in the city of New York, New York. With that, we are headed towards the very end now. It's crazy to think about. It's the 21st, headed towards the end of our Freedom Drive, and I want you to be a part of it right now. Your donations are doubled today. You can do it. Have your gifts doubled. We're coming into an incredibly busy time of the year. The holidays don't stop for us. Nothing slows down. If anything, it ramps up. So be a part of it. ACLJ.org. Have your gifts doubled by an amazing ACLJ supporter ready to unlock their double pledge right now. Do it at ACLJ.org or scan the QR code. We'll be right back.
6 Democratic lawmakers with a provocative message to U.S. troops.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually, what they said is you can refuse an illegal order, which is in the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
They're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not.
The president writing online yesterday, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial.
The other interesting thing is this. We don't know where they made this. If they made it in the Capitol, the speech and debate clause of the Constitution protects them. That insulates members of Congress from any adverse legal consequences because it's in furtherance of their jobs as members of Congress.
For them to do this is one of the most irresponsible things I've ever seen a member of Congress do. You cannot break the chain of command. You cannot do that. These people are taught this on a regular basis, and yet these people are out there encouraging this type of behavior without seeing a fact pattern. I thought it was terribly irresponsible.
This is a really serious matter. More than anything, you might get young men and women dispelled from the military for thinking they have the right to disobey orders all the time. I mean, you're really putting young lives at risk as far as their future goes.
I talked to a friend of mine who is a veteran and works in media, and they put it this way, which is, we're being naive if we think that what Slotkin was trying to communicate was an obvious, disobeying an obvious unlawful order. They want more Bradley Manning kinds of situations. They want high-profile summary acts of rebellion inside the active duty military, and it's sick and twisted to call for that.
It is Logan's 40th birthday today. I wanted to jump in before him. Sorry I took that. But we had to say happy birthday. Put that in the chat, everyone. Happy birthday to Logan.
As you might sometimes think.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the beard, I think now people think I may be older. They're like,
I know. So, for a while, everybody thought I was Dad's brother. Now, maybe they think I'm your younger brother.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're my son. With that, thank you so much for everyone who's wished me a happy birthday earlier today.
It's a big one.
It is. It's too big of one, really, if we're being honest. It's both frightening, but here we are. You know what? But I'm encouraged by the people who watch our show because, they may tend to be a little bit older, and they seem to think, bright, spry young man with just one bad knee. So you know what? I feel good about that. I feel good about that. With that, I do want to get us back on topic, but thank you so much. Phone lines are open. You know what? Call me. You don't have to tell me happy birthday, but I appreciate you calling.
This is what happens at this age. You can get taken out by one kid with strep throat at your house for 4 or 5 days.
If you wondered why I was in here monologuing for the last week, that is because when you got little kids, that's what happens. Phone lines are open.
When
I want to hear from you.
I don't think I'm contagious. It's like,
Yeah, just stay over there. 1-800-684-3110 to be on the air. Of course, we are talking about the Democrats now saying, hey, this is not just Democrats. These are,
all former intelligence, military, astronauts, Air Force,
they produced
paratroopers.
a video, like they were like in the U2's One campaign, and decided we're going to do a video that says it is okay to defy the orders of the President of the United States, your Commander-in-Chief.
Which ones? We're not going to tell you.
We're going to say his illegal ones. And, of course, again, that gets to a very gray area of what they consider illegal. But I think you need to see this yourselves.
Yeah, you do.
So you have an understanding of what's going on. Take a look.
I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
but whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Don't give up the ship. Of course, looking at this video, what I think is interesting also is they say, we have your backs. Well, what does that mean?
Nothing.
Exactly nothing. So as Jordan said, very concerning.
They can't go get you out of military prison when you've defied your commander.
And when they specifically don't mention anything.
Right.
I mean, that's
They
the thing.
don't
There's
even
not
hint at like what the
they're talking
illegal
about.
orders are.
No.
And I think that's part of the biggest problem. They even say right now the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. And I think maybe they should be a little bit more introspective, because the Commander-in-Chief Clause, Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution says the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces is the President of the United States. When Congress, which has the power to declare war, is saying that now they are the judge and jury of what they would consider legal or illegal orders, is a big problem, sowing seeds of doubt in these service members, which could create a constitutional crisis.
And don't forget that under Congress's own rules, a president can act for 30 and then an additional 30 days, so up to 60 days, with military force without Congress intervening. He doesn't have to brief Congress or get the support of Congress. So you've got 60 days as president to act as commander-in-chief without any check, because you have to be ready as president of the United States to deal with threats to the country that are immediate. You don't have time to go to Congress and have a debate over it. That's why you have the 60-day, 30-day plus 30-day provision. So Congress has even delegated more authority to the commander-in-chief to carry out military action.
And before we get to a call, I do want to point out one thing here as well, that they start off at the beginning saying that they are addressing not just the military, but the intelligence community as well.
Bizarre.
And the irony of that, which I think it's no secret to anyone, that the intelligence community operates in a gray area. And if they're now telling even the intelligence community to defy what they would consider an illegal order, where were these individuals, these senators, when the intelligence community was fabricating Russiagate? Where were these senators and congressmen when that was going on, when they were using and weaponizing intelligence against a sitting president of the United States, saying, hey, you can refuse an illegal order of the CIA director? They were nowhere to be found. It's because they don't like President Trump that they're using this vague illegal order language to try and sow doubt and create a true crisis. If the military you can't trust to follow orders, then you cannot trust that you are going to be safe as a nation.
How many of them were working in intelligence when they were certain there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then how many of them were troops that followed those orders into Iraq when we never found those weapons of mass destruction? And yet, are they going to then say that those presidents that kept that going, which, by the way, wasn't just President Bush, but President Obama as well, were they violating military code of law by continuing those conflicts in Iraq?
Well,
I mean, this is why it gets ridiculous when they make these broad statements.
Because prison time is involved. But when you talk about even just your boss at any job, if you have an order given from your boss, you do it. If you don't, there are consequences for that. Of course, consequences a bit more extreme. We're talking about wartime. And actually, we have a good call about that. Let's go to Bill in Wyoming. I was watching on ACLJ.org. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. First of all, I want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Since I'm not too sure. But anyway, I'm speaking as a vet, and there's been times I've been given orders, and I've talked to other vets who have also been given orders that we don't like to do, but we have to carry them out. Now, if we go along with what these representatives say, they're opening up a whole can of worms, because as a military person, I can call off and say, no, that's illegal. I'm not going to do it. And another point to this is that I got to fork off and say that aren't the Republicans saying something about this as well?
I do think they are. And I think also it's so absurd and it's so generic.
Well, President Trump certainly is.
Yeah, I mean, President Trump threatened that you do this and you've committed treason and you
know what comes with that. Yeah.
I mean, And the truth is, you're risking things like that, depending on what level you're at. If you start refusing to carry out orders and you have to be taken out by military police, put into a brig, and then prosecuted by the Uniform Court of Military Justice, which, by the way, they try to make it look like, hey, we have our own legal system. That legal system, because when you join the U.S. military, you give up many of your rights under the Constitution. That is a much tougher system to be found not guilty than in the regular civilian system. For a reason. You are there to carry out acts of deadly force, and that's why the chain of command is so important. Well, that you also have to have faith in that chain of command. I mean, you know what they're really doing is by this ad is they are trying to kind of pull the wind out of what has been a resurgence in people joining the U.S. military because they believe that the Department of War now actually has their back in being soldiers.
Well, and that's the entire shift in the mindset of being war fighters, of doing what the military was designed to do to protect this nation. They are trying to undermine the confidence in that. Jordan, you pointed out, recruitment in the military is at an all-time high because Pete Hegseth and the president have refocused the military on their core mission instead of all the ancillary stuff that was getting caught up in the progressive agenda for using our military. But, Bill, to your point also, many Republicans have been speaking out on this. I mean, even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said that it was wildly inappropriate. And think of the threat that it is to our national security and what it means for our institution, meaning both the damage they're doing to Congress as well as the threat to national security by undermining that very trust that Americans have in their military, that the commander-in-chief has in the military to follow orders. The whole thing sets up a precedent that is unfathomable. I never thought I would see members of Congress and members of the Senate that are veterans themselves sit there and say something so wildly reckless, trying to undermine the trust of those that have enlisted to serve our country in their chain of command. It's shocking.
Look, we only have about a minute left, so we're going to keep this conversation going. There's a lot of calls that are on right now. Stay on hold. In the next segment, Mike Pompeo is going to be joining us, but stay on hold because following that, I'll get to your calls. I know you got to sit through one more segment, so stay on hold. That's at 1-800-684-3110. While Secretary Pompeo is on, and while we have this next part of the discussion, if you want to support the work of the ACLJ, whether it's our incredible legal work, we're on the Supreme Court all the time. We have so much going on. I'll talk to Jordan about that when we get back. Of course, we are also working on the persecuted church all over the world. We've seen that making a lot of news more recently, but the ACLJ has been hard at it for years. Your generous support right now makes all the difference. These are the most important months of the year, November and December, for any organization, but for specifically us. This is where we have to hit budgets and really start planning for next year. And, of course, it is a matching month, so we have a great time for you to give right now. Your donations are doubled at aclj.org during our Freedom Drive.
35 on average Christians are killed a day in Nigeria by Islamic extremist groups.
They are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country.
The ACLJ recently joined a new coalition partner, CPAC, the American Conservative Union. I think a lot of people know about the big CPAC events. And we talked about this issue of Christian persecution worldwide and putting together a coalition. The idea is to end Christian persecution worldwide.
They need to know what is happening, the brutality, the tragic stories of so many martyrs. We are going to tell their story. I believe the Holy Spirit moved us in this direction for CPAC and also the great work that Jordan does at the ACLJ to make sure that this becomes a reality.
The first meeting at the White House was about, kind of what's next on how the president and the executive branch can do on the international front. And I remember in that meeting, Matt Schlapp looked over at me and kind of said, hey, Jordan, what's, number one on the agenda? And we said Nigeria put back on the CPC, countries of particular concern list. So by putting them on the list of countries of particular concern, that means they are now being watched very closely by various departments of the U.S. government. After that meeting, that was on a Wednesday. The next day, on that Friday, President Trump sent the message out that Nigeria would be added to the countries of particular concern list. And a few days later wrote that if Nigeria doesn't get it together, we're going to get it together for them and protect these Christians. This is what we do. This is who the ACLJ is. Join us in fighting for freedom. Have your donation doubled at aclj.org/freedom.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Phone lines are completely jammed right now, but we will be taking your calls coming up in the next segment, so make sure you stay on hold because we will get to you. We are joined now by Secretary Mike Pompeo, of course, member of the ACLJ team for a number of years now. Secretary Pompeo, I wanted to get your point of view, obviously, as a military person and someone who has served and obviously has served our country many, many times. A group of Democrat lawmakers, some top names, put out this, if you want to say, this promo ad, essentially telling our members of our military that it is okay, and not only okay, they are asking them to disobey what they consider to be unlawful orders. Now, what those orders are, of course, they don't say what those are, but that feels like a very dangerous push to our military. They say in there, hey, we'll have your back. But what does that even possibly mean when you're talking about defying the orders of the commander-in-chief?
Look, that video was disingenuous at best and dangerous at worst. I was a young soldier, spent 40 years now, I'll concede that. But I was a young soldier. Well, the first thing you're taught is the basic rule, is that you have an obligation to follow every lawful order and an equal duty not to follow an unlawful or unconstitutional order, both twins. And every soldier, whether they're the youngest enlisted soldier in the Marines or Navy or a senior officer in the Army or Space Force, everybody gets that. So they were doing this for political purpose, and they got the attention they wanted. They got the storyline out there they wanted. It's a bit of a tempest in the teapot in that way, but it is unexplainable other than say they are playing political games with a very important American institution, the United States Armed Forces. And for that, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm glad that so many have come around the cause saying this is reckless and dangerous for them to have chosen to do that. It's unexplainable other than as a political stunt or an effort to undermine the current administration.
And Mr. Secretary, the fact that, one, the left is always trying to say President Trump's putting us in a constitutional crisis. When you look at something like this, where they're vague, they're not pointing to a specific order, so it seems as though they're just trying to either, one, just do a political stunt, or to sow discord, to bring down the trust almost in American institutions. At the same time, when they're saying they have the backs of these people as if they are the stopgap in some way against someone being taken through the military system of justice. But you think about the framework of the military is enshrined in the Constitution with the commander-in-chief, the chain of command, it being something that our founders put thought into. When they're saying that President Trump, by doing this or doing that, even though the checks and balances, as far as I've seen, have worked out thus far, isn't it a real constitutional crisis when you start trying to sow doubt in the very system which is enshrined in the Constitution?
You know, I think that's the case, that all of us need to make sure that these institutions that matter so much, whether it's our United States military or our court system or these young folks who are serving in our FBI who don't want to do politics, who just want to go take bad guys, take criminals off the streets, police forces. I think the left has tried to undermine these things in the very way you described for an awfully long time. And sadly, you see the election in New York City, you see what happened with the defund the police movement, you see this connectivity that you're describing, right, which is to undermine, sow discord, and to undermine these central institutions that our founders created and have served America for 250 years. And so I don't think there's any doubt that this was part and parcel of a broad radical left campaign to do just what you described. And they certainly accelerate that when President Trump is making decisions that you've seen, right? Sometimes the courts have rejected and said, nope, you can't do that. And sometimes they said, nope, that's completely within the lines of the Constitution or the law. Those checks and balances have served us incredibly well. And when you try to go around them, when you try to undermine the commander-in-chief, that when the founders laid the Constitution out, they didn't give Congress the power to be the commander-in-chief. They gave it to a singular individual. When you try to undermine that, you do impose a real risk that the next generation won't understand that very important concept.
Well, and I think that this entire conversation is very timely because you have a new piece up at aclj.org that's titled American Conservatives Must Embrace First Principles. And I think it's a lesson, one, for conservatives, but also for maybe people on the left. I know they probably won't be perusing ACLJ.org on a Friday afternoon, but they should, because you bring up the point that real conservatives need to remember what we stand for and actually know what we believe, and not just be in the tribal politics that we see so easily, but to really get back to that. And when you contrast what you're calling for with what we're seeing so often from the left, I just want to give you an opportunity to speak about that and why this piece you think is important for people to read, especially at a time like this.
So it would be especially important for some who probably aren't in the normal ACLJ audience, but perhaps some of this we can all take to America broadly, because I don't view this as political. But for those of us who believe in the conservative idea of America, the very founding ideas, every now and again we get caught up in the moment in a particular thing that's happening or catches the news or is on X. We should all remind ourselves that the reason this nation is so exceptional is because of these very core ideas about property rights, about individual liberty, not group polls, right? The idea of freedom and freedom of speech, don't cancel, just let 1,000 voices be heard. When we go back to those core ideas of liberty and freedom, then it serves the conservative movement well, but more importantly, it serves America in ways that give us a good shot at the next 250 years. And that's why I took this week, just as we're all moving into Thanksgiving, to remind ourselves how blessed we are to be Americans and how important it is to remember these core ideas that have made this country so great.
Secretary Pompeo, we always appreciate your guidance and your advice here. It's always appreciated, especially when we have such an interesting topic here when it comes to the military. It's always good to have your point of view. But thank you, and happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great week with you and your family. With that, I just want to again say thank you, but also thank you to all the people who support the work of the ACLJ. We have one line open at 1-800-684-3110. You can call in while we're in break, because in about 2 minutes, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to start taking phone calls, because so many of you have been on hold. I know a lot of you have a lot to say. A lot of vets who've called in. Make sure that you guys all get your voices heard and ACLJ champions. And if you want to be an ACLJ champion, that is someone that gives on a monthly basis, automatically, like a membership. You can do that right now. And your first donation will be part of our Freedom Drive, so it will be doubled. You will have an unlocked donation there. So if you decide you want to give at a $20 level for the first month, that will be essentially $40 to the organization, because we have unlocked that pledge. The ACLJ is hard at it. I just want to say we have big months ahead. And Jordan, I know we got a minute and a half here.
I'll just run through it real quick. We're filing a major amicus brief, our 6th this year, to defund the abortion industry the day after Thanksgiving, so our team continues to work. We're filing a major appeal to the Supreme Court to defend a church from outrageous fines leveled by Gavin Newsom. And we'll be announcing another new Supreme Court case next month, which isn't that far away anymore when we're already talking about Thanksgiving. We're making significant progress on the global advocacy. I think you've seen that in the news if you've been looking at it, on the persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Over the last year, we've engaged in 218 pro-life cases, 102 international cases, 263 school matters, 188 government corruption cases, 36 cases battling anti-Semitism, 129 religious liberty cases, and we're just getting started. I mean, this is still November.
That's right.
That's what we've done so far this year.
That's just this year. At ACLJ.org,
with your financial support, we can do it.
Actually break down a lot of that. If you want to get more in the weeds on all the work the ACLJ does, go to ACLJ.org. Nothing's behind a paywall. You can go there, learn more, read more, get educated, watch all the incredible YouTube videos our team puts up on our YouTube channel that over 500,000 people are a part of. Do that today. Of course, support the work of the ACLJ as you can. We only have a 1-minute break coming up. So in that minute, I encourage you to think about supporting the work of the ACLJ. If you don't get us on your local radio station or wherever you get it, get the second half hour at aclj.org or all social media platforms.
Welcome to the all-new ACLJ app. Expert analysis and insight big tech can't censor. Customize your news and get real-time alerts on the issues you care about. Advocacy is now at your fingertips. Take action, make a difference. Support the causes you care about with just one tap. Be the first to know. Breaking news alerts sent straight to your inbox. Everything you need, all in one place. Stay informed, stay empowered. Download today.
We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Sekulow program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple. On today's show, Democrats go into damage control after telling the military to defy orders.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Welcome to Sekulow. It is a Monday. We are live, just to make sure people know this. We're live. It's Thanksgiving week. Again, phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110, 1-800-684-3110. I'll prove it, Will. The White House Christmas tree is being delivered live right now on Fox News. Breaking news alert, everyone. If you're looking for a Fox News alert, they are currently showing what appears to be a wagon from horse-drawn carriage from many moons ago with Melania Trump out front taking the Christmas tree. I just want to make sure people know that we're live. This is not a taped show here on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving week. It will be taped on Thanksgiving. I'll tell people that ahead of time. So we're going to actually spend time with our families, which would be nice. But between now and then, we're live, and we're here happy to take your calls at 1-800-684-3110. Will, I didn't even listen to this clip because you sent it to me. I saw it pop up, and I go, you know what? I need one of those reacts to. Logan reacts to. Jordan reacts to. Will reacts to. Because, of course, we all remember last week when Mark Kelly, Slotkin, the whole gang of people went up there and they made their nicely edited video saying, military, defy your orders if you think they are unlawful. And of course, we know that they didn't seem to put a lot of specificity into what these unlawful orders may or may not be. We talked to people in the military. Of course, that is part of your code, is you're not supposed to, you're supposed to be aware that if you're being told to do something that is illegal, you're not supposed to do it. But of course, they were not given any specifics. And in this moment, from what you've been telling me, they asked them, the press pushed them actually and said, you know what are those specifics?
Well, here's what's interesting is that all of these members of Congress put this video together last week, made a lot of news, and then all got invited to do Sunday shows. We have clips from all of them. And none of them gave a consistent answer with the other. They all had a different talking point, which is bizarre because they contradicted themselves. But the one who was kind of the ringleader of this, it was Senator Elissa Slotkin from Michigan. She was on ABC This Week with Martha Raddatz. They are going to friendly media and getting asked questions that should be a softball question if they had thought ahead about the outcome of this. And listen to the answer from the senator from Michigan to Martha Raddatz's question about, has President Trump issued any illegal orders? Bite 2.
Let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
Legal gymnastics. She was a CIA analyst. That is the Department of Legal Gymnastics within the United States. And she's sitting here saying it was of such dire need that we put this ad out to let people know the law, that they don't have to follow legal orders. They gave away the game. It shows that it was politically motivated to undermine the President of the United States authorities, Commander-in-Chief.
And one of those things when you look at it, too, specifically this cause, saying, well, maybe it's the Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela. We're talking about stopping drug trafficking coming into the country. You're not even talking about things like, I don't know, the National Guard being called up to Memphis or Chicago, where at least there's maybe some gray area there.
There's not. Really. There's not. I mean, if you look at how the law is set up, if you follow the law to the T, you might not like the policy.
I disagree with it. That's more what I meant.
Policy. And you can change laws, but what you can't do is say that they're illegal when they're not. So when she had the opportunity to go through and list, what are all these illegal actions the president's done? Right, she didn't even try to go to National Guard, Logan, because she's too smart to go there, because she knows she can't. So she had to say, no, there haven't been any. And then she came up in her head, well, maybe something with Venezuela. But, she obviously hadn't done a research on that to even use that as a focal point.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk about this and so much more. We are 1 week away from the end of our Freedom Drive here in the month of November. Okay, we've had Grandparents' Week. We've had so many things. And we're going to have a great December as well. But I want you to support the work of the ACLJ right now, whether it's our legal work, our media work, whether you like this show, whether you like what we do in the courtroom. All of it matters, and your donations are doubled throughout this Freedom Drive. So right now, scan the QR code that's on your screen or go to aclj.org. When we get back, we're going to take your calls and comments. Again, 1-800-684-3110. We'll play more bites. We'll get more into it. We'll be right back on Sekulow.
We're here at the Cook County Circuit Court where we're going to trial for two of our clients. They were street preaching downtown Chicago, targeted by the police, cited for a noise violation. It's completely unjust, and we're here to defend them in their criminal court. At the ACLJ, there's no small cases for us. This might be a misdemeanor, but this is something that could go permanently on their record. It could be a permanent stain on their reputation. It could be fines, and frankly, this is exactly the kind of thing what we're here for. This is what the ACLJ cares about. These are young men passionate about the gospel, and we're not going to just sit around and let the police harass them, which frankly, that is what this is. We're here for two words: not guilty. That's the only answer that we think is acceptable. Those young men were not violating the law. Their volume was not at an illegal level, and we're going to make sure that the court and the judge see that.
Victory! I might be packing my bag soon to return to Chicago. Chicago, get ready to see me again.
After multiple continuances, forcing these young men to come to court multiple times, we finally showed up ready for trial, and at the last possible moment, Chicago was not ready. Chicago made these young men go through almost 6 months of court hearings, of trial procedure, pre-trial preparations, all for, at the last minute, the city of Chicago to be unprepared. For that reason, the court dismissed all charges against these young men. They can go back out in the streets and continue to evangelize and preach.
Freedom is never more than a generation from extinction. President Reagan's words have never been more true than they are today. This is what we do. This is who the ACLJ is. Join us in fighting for freedom. Have your donation doubled at aclj.org/freedom.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Again, we got to reset a little bit. A lot of you are just joining us right now. Of course, we were talking about last week. Again, we're live. I like to prove that I'm live, Will, because it's Thanksgiving week. A lot of shows take off. We're live right now. Earlier on, we were talking about the Christmas tree being delivered into the White House. They've moved on from that on the news, but that just happened.
There's a car on fire in New York City, according to what's on the news right now.
Yeah, last night there was.
There you go.
Listen, we are live, and we are going to take your calls at 1-800-684-3110. If you're an ACLJ supporter, also an ACLJ champion, I encourage you to call in, even if you just have words of thanks or encouragement. We'd love to hear from you. We are obviously in the last week here of our Freedom Drive for the month of November. Then we're going to be rolling right into December. Big December is the last 2 months of the year are always very big fundraising months for any organization. It's the most important months of the year. It's where a lot of people make their year-end giving. So we encourage you right now to still support the work of the ACLJ as we continue to give you not just our legal opinions, but also the news of the day. And the news of the day, Will, of course, comes out of Washington, D.C. We know last week that video went viral, if you will, saying, you know what, if you're a military person and you think that the president is giving you illegal orders, you do not have to obey these orders. Here's what you can do. And, of course, then when pushed on the Sunday shows, they couldn't answer that any illegal orders had been made. I mean, that honestly, what a dumb answer. Like, it just is ridiculous to me. Right. I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean that in a, even if you're pushing you're pushing your narrative forward. Anyone who understands how media works understands you got to push your narrative forward. You don't answer with, to my knowledge, I'm not aware that there are things that are illegal.
So it's a wasted ad.
Right. So that is the worst answer they could have given, and then swerved it into well, there's some legal gymnastics happening. The American people don't fall for that. They don't want to hear that. They want to be told, look, if you think there's something illegal, stand up. I think you could say a lot about the Mamdani meeting last week, which was, you know what? You had a guy go in there that a lot of people had a lot of problems with and walk out smiling with the president of the United States on completely different sides of the aisle. There's a way you can handle things right now that American people will actually appreciate. They'll actually respect, even if they disagree with you. It's kind of the way people felt about Bernie Sanders, which is, they may disagree with him on everything, but they at least believe he's telling the truth from his perspective.
Right. When
you feel like you're just being lied to and manipulated, it's ridiculous. I know, Will, you got more sound you want to play, more videos you want to play.
Well, it was just so shocking. One, to see that almost all of these members of Congress that were in this video were on Sunday shows. They all got booked to go talk about this because it was the major kind of news at the end of the week that they put this video out. The president responded strongly, and we spent a whole hour breaking it down, Jordan. But I want to play this sound.
Not to follow advice of these senators.
Right.
And then they doubled down on why not to follow their advice.
And this is what I want to get your take on too, Jordan, because Elissa Slotkin, who was kind of the mastermind of this ad, she was the first one to put it out on her X account, as well as she's the first person to speak. So it almost seems like it was organized by her and her press team. But let's go ahead and play this more extended part, because we already played and you referenced her saying, to my knowledge, he's not doing anything illegal right now. Yeah. But this is a follow-up by Martha Raddatz. Once again, I don't think anyone watching this show is a fan of Martha Raddatz or ABC this week, especially with some of the performances she's given at presidential debates, things of that nature. Not necessarily the most unbiased or neutral member of the press. But she's asking what seemed to be pretty easy questions for someone that had this entire campaign rollout. And this is a follow-up from Martha Raddatz to Senator Slotkin from Michigan, bite 3.
It does imply that the president is having illegal orders, which you have not seen.
I think for us, it was just a statement widely, right? We say very quickly and to all the folks who come to us, this is the process. Go to your JAG officer, ask them for explanation, for top cover, for their view on things. We do that on a case-by-case basis, but we wanted to speak directly to the volumes of people who had come to us on this.
And it is very clear that no one should follow an illegal order, but it's very murky when you look at what is an illegal order. And if you go into morally, ethically, that's a pretty tough thing to look at and say, how do I navigate this?
Look, if you're going back to Nuremberg, right, they told me to do it, that's why I murdered people, is not an excuse. If you look at popular culture, there's you watch, A Few Good Men, we have plenty of examples since World War II.
Jordan, I want, first of all, she says volumes of people have come to them asking about illegal orders. I don't believe that for a minute. But then she goes into Nuremberg and then A Few Good Men, of which she says is plenty of examples since World War II.
If you look at popular culture.
I know, A Few Good Men is a movie. It's not an example since World War II for these purposes. A Few Good Men
gets put to the side. That is fiction. Okay, so fiction doesn't count. That's not a good enough answer. Second, Nuremberg. Nuremberg focused on leaders within the Nazi death camps and the leaders of the Nazi Party, SS members specifically. It was not just regular kind of uniformed troops with the Nazis. These were the worst of the worst who saw the atrocities, and that's where they were tried in this special tribunal. If that's what you can point to in the world, of all the world of military, is one, the Nuremberg trial following the Holocaust as a don't use a, well, you were given this instruction, so you were following orders, and that doesn't work as defense. I mean, that's just not accurate. And you know what she goes on to say is what we did on the show. But what they didn't do in their little 30-second ad is they just wanted to make a very broad statement, right? That's what she says, actually. We say very quickly, and for all the folks who come to us, this is the process. Go to your JAG officer. Wait, don't just ignore, because I thought the ad said ignore illegal orders.
Right.
This says go to a JAG officer and make sure you get cover, is what she goes and says, which is the process. You go to a military court officer, and if you really have a concern, and they are the ones to issue a judgment to make sure that you do have cover before questioning an order.
Yeah, and there are moments, you have to say, where the media shines a little brighter. I have to say, you got to give it up to Raddatz for actually not just pushing back, because again, like you said, well, these were softball questions, but for not taking the answer either. To go, but what are you talking about here? And to explain to people that when you say illegal order, that it is murky, and what does that even mean?
Right, and once again, they, as Jordan just pointed out, in that ad, they say our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders. So there's not you should go to your JAG officer and ask them about the legal cover for an order. It is very direct. But I think we should play another member of this team.
Another.
This is from Maggie Goodlander. She's a member of the House of Representatives from New Hampshire, also the wife of Jake Sullivan, everyone's favorite, Rick Grinnell's favorite. Everybody loves Jake Sullivan.
He'll be on later. We can ask him.
Never had any sort of questions about legal advice that he's given presidents.
And this was him on with Wolf Blitzer.
With Wolf Blitzer, Maggie Goodlander on with Wolf Blitzer, once again asked a very direct question that they should have had the answer to if they were going to film themselves for an ad. Bite 6.
Have you, Congresswoman, or any other of these Democratic members of Congress heard directly from members of the U.S. military or the broader national security community who believe they've been given unlawful orders?
Well, you know, what I'd say is I have heard from service members, and I have heard from service members, and this is all a matter of public record. What we see is an uptick of concern from the men and women who are serving in uniform about the legality of orders that are being given.
It's like they were given it's like they were given a gotcha question, and it's the most basic question, and you at least have some people with a little bit of journalistic integrity to ask the question that, I don't know, should be number one on everyone's list when they're going to ask him. And it was, and the response was like they were so shocked that they got asked this question.
Well, they got a camera in their face, and they were told by their staff, say this into the camera.
And didn't know what
they didn't. They just said it, and they moved on. And then they booked all these interviews because of it, and you would have thought, okay, then the staff person's going to walk in and say,
we're going to prep.
You're going to get asked, has he done anything illegal? If you're going to say, no, you need to be able to pivot to, but this is what we're looking for. This is where we're on the line.
I've got one more because, Jordan, they booked all these interviews, and you'd think that their press team, after seeing the first interview go so poorly, would update their talking points. Bite 9, also Maggie Goodlander, on with MS Now,
you gotta say
formerly
that now.
MSNBC.
Yeah, very difficult
Bite 9.
interviews for liberals.
Illegal orders are you urging troops to refuse, and what do you hope they take away from your message?
Alex, we love this country. We love our Constitution. It is our job as lawmakers, and especially in this moment, to be clear morally, to be clear legally. And simply and clearly stating what the law says, what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, it's not a crime. It is not treason. It is not sedition. It is our job. And I think it's really important that we do our jobs in this moment.
Yeah, word salad. I mean, again, it feels like something straight from the Kamala Harris campaign. I mean, you don't want to be rude, but it's hard to even watch because these are just words that you are trying to get out of the top of your head. I mean, when you start saying things like simply and clearly, and you have to say clearly multiple times, then clearly you're not saying something clearly.
Logan, what illegal orders are you urging troops to refuse? We just love this country and our Constitution. It's so great.
It's our job.
Just speak the law.
It's our job to be clear. Morally, clear legally, simply and clearly. I mean, that end quote. Like, that is what she said. All right, we get back. What we got coming up next? We're going to talk a little about the ACLJ's work, what we're doing in California, taking on Governor Newsom, your favorite. We're going to talk about the legal work that's happening here at the ACLJ as we wrap up our Freedom Drive. We want you to get engaged on the work that we do beyond even this broadcast. We're going to talk about that coming right up.
In a shocking case of selective prosecution, local police arrested Zach Knotts for nothing more than being a voice for the voiceless outside of an abortion clinic in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
It is not too late to turn away from this bloodshed and this madness.
Because of the ACLJ's robust legal representation, we were able to get all state charges completely dismissed, which means that Zach is free to go back to that abortion clinic and continue his work protecting life.
All they offer here is abortion. They don't do birth control. They do nothing but abortion here. So every woman that comes in here has either had an abortion and is getting aftercare, making sure they got all the arms and legs, or they're having the abortion today or starting the process with the abortion pill.
250 years of American history has shown us one thing: rights don't defend themselves. If you're not going into court advocating for your rights, they will quickly slip away and be eroded. We find people across the country who are willing to stand and fight for those freedoms.
There's nothing that will stop me from going to that clinic because there are babies being murdered in that building. And if I'm not going to do it, if we're not going to do it, who is? and here I am, Lord, send me.
We're going to go out to these abortion clinics. We're going to use our freedom of speech. We're going to use our voice to be a voice for the voiceless.
It might sound like a cliche, but bedrock principles like freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, these are core not only to what it means to be an American, but to participate in our democracy. It is because of your gifts and because of your generosity that we continue fighting this and that Zach is able to preach where he is outside the abortion clinic.
This is what we do. This is who the ACLJ is. Join us in fighting for freedom. Have your donation doubled at aclj.org/freedom.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Rick Rennell is joining us. Rick, of course, the breaking news, and I'm sure you're thrilled about, there's a new person running for governor of California, and you know what? You think Gavin Newsom is going to get replaced. It can't get any worse, Rick, but of course we learn who is it that's running, and that is, of course, Will, who?
The congressman, the esteemed congressman from California, Eric Swalwell, is now entering the race for the governorship of California. You know, you thought, as Logan said, it couldn't get worse, but also we had Katie Porter, who was doing so great. I don't know why Eric Swalwell thought maybe there was a time to jump in here. What are your thoughts on this news, Rick?
California is, unfortunately, when you look at just voter registration, it's overwhelmingly Democrat. Now, we, over the last 4 years, have been making a huge dent. We're registering more Republicans than ever, but we're not quite there yet. I've been pushing voter registration for a long time, but right now, let's just talk reality. The math is in the Democrats' favor, and I've been telling our voters in California up and down that unless we changed voter registration, we're going to go into next year and we're going to have a Democrat governor. It is just the math number. Half of our society is not even registered to vote. So it's not like we're getting the full California picture when we have elections. So many people are frustrated. So many people think it doesn't matter if I vote in California. And we've got to change that perception, and I think we are. But when it comes to this crowded field, Eric Swalwell looks at the math and he says this whole race is about the Democrats. Who's going to win the Democratic primary? And he has a solid base of the far left woke crazies from Northern California. That is the base of the Democrats. I think it's terrible for California, but he's reading the political tea leaves right. Katie Porter has imploded, and now we have Javier Becerra who's running, who's got his own legal problems. You know, I still think we've got to watch out for Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor of L.A. He's kind of a moderate compared to the others in the Democratic Party, which is, you know, the standard that we have to use. And I think he still could rise up because Los Angeles County is the largest county in California, the largest county in America.
I kind of like when you say a name from California I'm not familiar with, because I feel like every person that's in California politics that has made a national name for themselves have made such a progressive stance and gone as far left as they could that maybe those in California will pick someone that's not Eric Swalwell, but we'll find out. But I did want to bring this up as well. It's what we've been talking about earlier in the broadcast, is that we saw that video that came out last week from those members of Congress that were urging members of the military to defy, and said even the words, "You must defy illegal orders." It was very vague. They went on all the Sunday shows and had a terrible time explaining themselves when you'd think if they wanted that, they got their goal by getting booked on the Sunday shows, they would have better answers. You even have Elissa Slotkin saying, I haven't really seen anything illegal, just some legal gymnastics. But I want to get your take on this because it seems very dangerous. It seems dangerous when members of Congress are interfering with the chain of command. The commander-in-chief, as prescribed by the Constitution, is the president, and starting to sow this doubt within our military community. How dangerous is this as we see what may come from this?
Well, I think this is incredibly dangerous. This is the same crowd that gave us the Russian collusion hoax. And this is a call to arms. This is a video asking for the bureaucracy and specifically intelligence officials to rise up against and stop President Trump. This is a dangerous game for America. I live in California, but I was born in Michigan. Michigan is a political home for me as well. And if you are a Michigan voter, you were completely duped by Elissa Slotkin. She ran commercial after commercial telling everybody she's a moderate, she wants to work with both sides, that she's not far left. Just look at her voting record. She is a far left woke activist who is now easily labeled as a hypocrite. If you're in Michigan, you need to start calling her out. She duped you if you voted for her because you thought she was a moderate. Many Republicans saw through it, but Elissa Slotkin is trying to say I was an intelligence officer, and there is this thing that's happening where illegal activity is being pushed on them and they should stand up. But then when she's confronted on the Sunday cable show, she said, I don't know of anything. Well, then this whole thing was a political ploy like the Russian hoax, and shame on her for pushing it.
Obviously, one of the big news stories out of last week was the peace plan put in place by President Trump. And look, hey, he had a peaceful meeting with Mamdani. Maybe he could cause peace now in Ukraine and Russia, putting together a multiple-point plan that actually seemed to be one of the most rational plans for ending this war. It's been kind of praised by both sides. They start to negotiate out what those terms may or may not be. But I feel like this is a positive sign in terms of ending that war. I wanted to get your thoughts.
I'm one of these people who believe, and when you look at history, that finding a way to a ceasefire is the first step. Trying to find permanent peace is yet a whole nother thing. It's very difficult. It's step two. But trying to find a ceasefire moment and then working really hard to get both sides to understand the benefits of not going to war is the key. We have an opening here. President Trump has been so frustrated with what Joe Biden handed him. President Trump handed Joe Biden peace in the Middle East, peace in Europe, and he turned around and handed President Trump 2 wars. And so the frustration over the Russia-Ukraine situation is high. We have an opening. I think the reality is that peace is always worth it. And the Ukrainians are in terrible shape. They've been wiped out emotionally and physically. And I think that what we have to do is take a tough look at these solutions and step forward, as President Trump said, and let's have a ceasefire. Nothing is ever perfect, but a ceasefire is so much better.
With that, we are obviously on the world stage, and the ACLJ has been involved in so many different places. We only got about 2 minutes here, but we are wrapping up one of our big drives here. It's obviously Thanksgiving. This is a big week for a lot of people. A lot of organizations obviously are heading into the holiday. So I want to give you a minute. I mean, you've been working with us for many years now, and right now when people donate, they donate and they give, and their donations are doubled right now. But Rick, you have seen the work firsthand that we've done here, and obviously you've been a major part of it.
I'm so proud to be part of ACLJ simply because we're doers. We actually take action. We do legal challenges. We go to the United Nations and we push them. We go to the world stage and demand action. We don't just do petitions, but we actually take the substantive argument and demand that there's action on the other end. And that is done through staff. That's not done through a press release or just a statement. It's done through lawyers and others who do hard work. So I hope that people will join us, be partners with us, recognize that the information we're bringing them, there's a cost to it. And if there's a benefit to you, I hope that people will be able to join us, especially this holiday season when everything is tight.
Pray about it. Think about it. If you can support, it's a great time to do it. But of course, we know it's been a rough year for a lot of people going at it right now. But I'm hoping that there are plenty of people, maybe some of those donors who have more that can donate more. The backbone of the organization is those that give it a $30 to $75 level one time a year. I'll be honest. But there's also a great group of ACLJ champions that give every month. And then there's a few of you that can really give in a bigger way. And all of those donations are doubled this month. So think about doing it. Reach out, support the work of the ACLJ at aclj.org.